Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Industry Insights podcast with me, Chris Nelson. Today, my special guest is Angela Wagstaff, Director of Allwag Promotions, a role which she's held for over 22 years, and she's also Chair of the BPMA for over 7 years. Angela is well-known, very well-respected figure in the promotional industry. Some say probably one of the busiest ladies in the industry too, so I'm delighted to have her on the show to hopefully share some pearls of wisdom for us. And on that note, welcome to the show, Angela, and thank you very much for having the time to come on as well. I know you're manically busy.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
No, absolute pleasure. Angela, first I was going to ask, as I've tried to always start as methodical as possible. I just wanted to give people, if that's okay with you, a little bit of a background of Angela, really, and what your, where you've come from and how you've got to where you are, really. So, if you don't mind me asking, what was your actual first job?
My first job was selling cauliflowers, bananas and carrots from Wickford greengrocers.
Oh, was it really?
Whilst I was at school. I think actually my first job was 2 weeks in a hairdressing salon, which didn't go well, followed by a Saturday job in what used to be called Peaches. So
right.
Is this one of those
like two for a pound, I'll give you, is that all that type of thing? Or yeah.
They used to send me out the front at 3 o'clock.
Right, okay, wow. Then you went from school. Then what happened after that?
From school, I had always worked. Family had different businesses, and due to loss of my uncle, I stepped into family business quite young. So from the age of 16, 17, I was running a catering business, rugby club, and so whilst I did A-levels, I decided not to go to university. And that really kind of spiraled from there. I qualified as a chef, which I did at college kind of part-time, slightly longer, and then had my own catering business for 4.5 years. So right. This was from the age of about 18, 19 to 23, I think. So
and you owned your own business doing that at that point. Yeah. That's, this doesn't surprise me at all, Andrew, to be honest, like these type of things. But okay. So you're doing that, and then what happened there? Then, if you don't mind asking, did you just decide you wanted a different change, or?
No, I became too big, too quick. I was too young, too inexperienced, and actually made myself quite ill. So,
is that through? If you don't mind me asking, is that through just mentally, like sort of stress wise? Was that or?
Yeah, I mean, I did really, really well at building the business up. That's the bit I love. But catering's difficult for anyone that's ever been involved in any form of catering, hospitality. Long hours, hard work. Staffing's always a challenge. And
social hours as well, I'm guessing.
And social hours, yeah. And so I think after 4 years or whatever, it took its toll on me. Did make me ill. I had to take some time out because I'd burnt myself out quite young. I love a challenge, but I needed to learn to say no a little bit more. And to be fair, it was one of probably the best life lessons, although I didn't see that at the time, is just making sure you're surrounded by the right people to help you do what you do best. And I was trying to do too many things.
Yeah, I think that's massively important, isn't it? I think so many people can just beat themselves up and they're trying and they're just doing everything. And like, as you say, burning the candle at both ends, and they're trying to do this. And then they almost see, like what happened to you, obviously, to see it as a weakness. It's like, no, it's not. It's literally like nobody could have managed what you were probably trying to manage at that time. And it's just a natural thing. Your body can only take so much. So it's right, okay. And then, so from that point, if you don't mind me asking, were you out of work after that, not well, or did you?
I took some time out. So I'd qualified as a chef, had my own business, didn't know what I wanted to do. I can remember walking into, so I did take a few months off. I'd given my business, which was quite successful, to a colleague and didn't know what to do with myself. I wandered into a recruitment agency in London that specialised in catering and thought, I don't know what to do, but I'll have a chat with them. And long story short, they recruited me to work in recruitment. And so I went to work for a recruitment agency, and 4 days in, it's all very random, but I was headhunted by the lady that I'd gone to work for, who was setting up an American-backed company.
Right.
And so I went to work with them, and I spent 8 to 9 years in recruitment, dealing with accountancy staff, temps and perms, really fun, challenging environment, shall we say.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of it, I was managing offices with, you know, 10 to 15 staff in each across London, up to Leeds, Manchester.
Do you know what I'm asking, Angela? Sorry to interrupt you. Do you think the whole recruitment scene, do you think it's only for certain people?
Yeah, you have to be you have to be a tough nut.
No, that's it. I think I've heard people go into it and say like it's you either are set up to do recruitment and will love it for, you know, the recruitment agent Altex, I think he's probably 50 something, where he's done it his whole life and absolutely loves it. And you get people who've been in it for a few weeks and say, oh my, what is this? This is so much pressure. And
yeah, it was great. I mean, I was on the sales training side as well, so I used to get involved with that, and spent a lot of time in the States. So absolutely loved working for an American company. Used to get to go over, I don't know, 5 to 6 times a year, and anglicise what they wanted us to do. So really good grounding. You get to spot a fibber quite easily. That's one of the skills that you do learn.
it's all like A-stars on a CV, is that type of thing, is
it? You get to read. You get to learn how to read a CV.
Yeah,
or see through a CV, I should say. But yeah, I mean, you know, again, really good experience. It was busy, real, you know, great atmosphere, very sales orientated, and that was, you know, that was a fun time, particularly being in London, working in, I had offices in Covent Garden, in the city, West End. So it was great fun.
Yeah, okay, that sounds great. And but obviously you sound like you did actually, you know, you enjoyed it. It was great fun, and you obviously, as we know now from where you are, you did move on. What was the move on sort of reason there then?
So during this process, I met Alan. During the time I was in recruitment, I met Alan, and was traveling over to the States quite a lot. He decided that he needed to come with me, so he used to travel across with me as well. We set up home in Essex and wanted to have a family, and I was doing long days. I was doing, you know, up and out at 6, back in at probably 8, because you obviously wander past the odd pub on the way home and have to stop and have a pint. And so back to burning the candle at both ends. We decided we wanted a family, and nature wasn't being kind to me at that point. So I decided that, okay, I'm going to take a less stressful job. I'm going to work locally. I am going to, because of various things that I've done, I was going to train leadership programs, work as a business consultant locally, specialising in HR and marketing. So I took a job with what was then called Business Link, and I had about 40, 50 clients locally that I worked with, working from home and going out visiting. So we took the plunge from great salary, you know, and very lively kind of lifestyle with lots of holidays, then decided to settle down a little bit more locally, and that's actually at the same time that Allwag was founded. Right,
okay, so that was it. So then, and obviously that you were in that background, and you said obviously Allwag was created. How did you know? I mean, did you sort of like had a footing in this industry from knowing from recruitment, or how did you know about the promotional industry?
So Alan had worked in the print trade. He'd been made redundant for the 3rd time. So it was brilliant. It was brilliant timing. I'd just given up my great job in London to work locally, which comes with its kind of financial disadvantages. And Alan got made redundant. So we said, oh, great, what should we do now? So he was working for a print company, and they didn't think there was a future in promotional merchandise. So we didn't happen to agree, because we'd, you know, in marketing and whatever else, you know, we know it's got its place, and loved working with different brands. So Alan decided to start up on his own. And for that reason, both working from home out the back of our garage. And there may be some people that still remember coming there, because if I'm going back to our time initially in Billericay, where we just had half a garage, to having progressed through the ranks to a whole garage, and then moving here to Hatfield Peveril, where we had a I'm going to say shack at the back, bed out the back, which got us up to 6 staff. So there will be some within the industry that remember coming and sitting in my garden when we were at home. But we swiftly moved because I was still working as a business consultant and working part-time with Alan, but we grew slowly but surely in the first 8 years. Had 2 wonderful girls in that time, and had about 6 staff. And then come 2007, 2008, we started to take on more staff. We won our first contract with a university, and also another contract with the police force to do quite a lot of constabularies. And that was the turning point for us. And that was the point at which we then moved businesses to Wagstaff Park, where we got bigger offices, and the business then really rocketed. And that, I would say, went from being a lifestyle business to something that Alan and I were just doing to the start of seeing something really special.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few things there. So you obviously, one question I want to ask, this is just something I thought of. When you had the, obviously yours and Alan's, baby that you'd sort of developed, how hard was it taking on new staff? Because I've spoken to a lot of people who have 2 members of staff, or, 1 even, and they're thinking, the idea of taking on more staff who are outside of this company that we've developed as a, like our little baby. Was that a hard transition, or was it just a natural thing? You took them under your wing and...
No, I think it was probably that, and taking on that and buying offices was probably the 2 scary things in life that we had to think long and hard about. And yet letting somebody into not only kind of, husband and wife business.
Your passion as well.
Which comes with its challenges, believe me. And for anyone that's done the same, then, they'll understand. It was scary. We started with a part-time person, and then that made sense. I think once we got to kind of 4 or 5 people, we realised that actually, this does work. Starting then to see the benefit and enjoying other people's successes was what we really enjoyed. And I think that's where we then had the confidence, and actually that, coupled with winning some contracts which gave you longevity, was where we then gained our confidence from.
Yeah. And I bet as well, rather than seeing them as a potential, I wouldn't say a threat to what you do, but in terms of, you probably, from what you're saying there, you've almost like, you like to see them, invest in them and see them develop. You actually saw it from a different side. So okay. And the other thing I was going to ask you, what you just said there, you mentioned obviously moving premises, and that really allowed you to then elevate forward. I'm sure there's so many people who maybe are at lifestyle business size and they're thinking, we want to take it to the next level. Is that something you would recommend? I'm guessing it allowed you to have maybe a bit more space, warehouse space maybe, and a fulfillment side and things like that. Was that the difference really that made you move forward?
Yeah, I think so. We were working from home. I had 2 small children. I think having, needing to separate life and work was one thing. Also having the kids running around, whilst it was lovely, it was a bit of a pain. You want the best for your children, so they didn't want people constantly, coming in the house or whatever. So it was great when we could stick our feet in their paddling pool, but apart from that, there wasn't a lot of benefits to it. So and actually holding the first 2 tender meetings, the contracts that we won were done in our garden. And it was different. We were dealing with some big companies that kind of got that's what we were doing. But the need to change came really then for wanting to upscale, and we needed more space. And we had been fairly careful in the way that we had grown the business, so we hadn't gone mad, and there was stability there. We hadn't kind of stripped it of all its profits, so we had a good financial backing, and that's how we've always run the business. So for us, it was a case of, actually, this is scary but quite exciting. I mean, driving to work was a challenge. Good job it was only 8 miles up the road.
Getting up at 5 to 9 didn't work anymore.
It made a huge difference. It really did. And we probably wish we'd have done it earlier, but make your choices.
Okay. And then obviously we've now seen, so that's, you had your 6 staff, you've now got the new premises, you've got new contracts on board and things like that. And obviously now you've grew to what we know. Was there another big transition in the middle of that, i.e. getting into a different industry? And I know obviously you've got specific industries that Allwag work in. Did that make a difference as well?
Yeah, I think we split into 3 areas: corporate, public sector and education. And, we're stronger in some than others. And at different times of the year, some are busier, and that works really well for us. I think, as we grew our reputation in education, which was fabulous, then we won more and more contracts. And that's what we were aspiring to, was to give us the stability to be able to plan, because, you know, particularly in the last year, our industry is unpredictable. So whilst you think you know what's going to happen, curveballs come from nowhere. So being able to plan and then go from here to our rented offices into purchasing, and so investing some of the monies that we'd made into a building, which is our office in Hatfield Peveril, and then into a warehouse and other units that we've got. So that made sense to make use of that money, because there's no point keeping it in the bank account when you can utilise it.
Okay, yeah. And I was going to say, by the way, for anyone who's not been to your office, I will personally say, because I've dropped a few things off at Christmas time, and you have literally the best Christmas decorations of all the industry. I think there should be like a competition in the industry just to see if we can knock off the crown for Allwag, because that's sometimes you've got like card trains going through the office and like all sorts going on. So yeah, people should aspire to be like that. So
it is a competition. Each team has to decorate their office.
Yes, you have your internal competition, don't you? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's lots of competitions.
Yeah. So right, okay. So you've got the business. It's grown obviously to where it is. But amongst all of this, Angela, and this is where I honestly admire you so much. You're developing a business, and you know, director. You've got all the different facets of running a business. You know, making sure the staff are happy, doing all this. And in the middle of all this, you've obviously decided as well that you've obviously want a more integral part in the industry, and obviously now as we know, you're chair of the BPMA, which you have been for years, and board director before that. But what sort of led to those decisions, obviously, because I'm sure for a lot of people, certainly me included, the work that's right in front of you is probably quite full on and feels sometimes enough. But you've always sort of strived to make yourself better and better educated as well. So what's been the sort of thought process behind going into those things?
So just to clarify, I've only been chair for a couple of years. I think been chair for 3, on the board for 5 to 6. And I would have only been chair for 2 had last year not happened, with it being difficult for anyone to step into that role because nobody really had the time. The reason I did it was because there were some great people in this industry that helped me along the way, helped us along the way, that gave their time, that gave their support, whether it be competitors, suppliers, or just general people in the industry. And I think being a distributor is quite lonely, and when you're smaller, your competitors are just that, they're your competitors. You don't talk to them, you don't look at them, all of this sort of thing. And I was fortunate enough to be involved in a couple of business groups locally where I'd helped out with leadership training. And so for me, it was a case of, okay, where do I get my steer from? What development do I need? But actually, what can I give back as well? Because a lot of people, there were some really good support networks at different times in my career with Allwag. And so I think to give that back, when I got a phone call from Gordon, as it was then, because I challenged something that I wasn't happy with and disagreed with, and made myself known, I think he pretty much said, well, if you think you can do better, come and then. So I said, okay. There was a lack of female representation on the board. We did have a couple of excellent board directors that were female, but I got invited on, I think it was out of just to shut me up, possibly. But and he may have regretted that, but it was great. I think there's some fabulous people on there. It is voluntary. It is, you give your time because you want the best or the right thing. And yeah, it takes time, and we've all seen various challenges over the last few years, but I think being able to support and help others and actually give back something, we do quite a lot with charity. We don't tend to shout about it, and that's purely because it's personal. Quite often the charities we choose are personal to the individuals, and it's not something we necessarily want everyone to know about. And the same with BPMA. It's I don't necessarily go on too much about it in the office. They don't really know what I do. Then I'll go missing for board meetings and Friday afternoons to get stuff done. But it's partly personal development, and I gained a lot of excellent relationships during my time, but also just to challenge your thinking and be able to give your support and experience to others that are starting up as well.
Okay. And like you just sort of highlighted a little bit, it's a challenge to yourself as well. And I was going to ask you on that, do you think that's important for advice for anyone, that you should never stop sort of challenging yourself and trying to develop and learn new skills?
Yeah, I mean, people have got so much to offer just in words of support, advice, a different perspective. You don't always have to agree with people, but respect their opinions.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people I might disagree with, or they might disagree with me. Absolutely, that's healthy. And we
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to challenge, we need to have disagreements, we need to, we need to challenge the status quo, because otherwise things just don't evolve and move forward.
Yeah.
And don't always get it right, absolutely, but unless equally anyone else wants to step up, then you have to do the best that you can.
Yeah.
And it's always from a good place, and that's where I'm so fortunate. Being chair is the easy bit. I'm so fortunate to have a great executive team at the BPMA. Again, we've seen a lot of change there, but the last year has really allowed us to support, advise, and just be that network there for a lot of people that are now from home on their own.
Yeah.
It's tough. So yeah, I would absolutely encourage people. You give as much or as little time as you want, whether it be a charity, a trade association, but you do get something back, and there is a sense of achievement.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting to your character as well, in the fact that, you said it's very easy, isn't it, sometimes, if something's not right in an organization or in the industry, like the head of our industry, BPMA, to sit there and go, oh, it just, really does my head in how that happens or whatever. And it's easy, and then you get on with your job. But whereas you've decided, no, do you know what? No, I'm not happy with it. Not only am I going to challenge it, but then when you got invited to be on board, you've said, well, yeah, actually, what's the easiest way to make this happen? I'll actually be part of it. And so I think that's really good that you've done that as well, to actually get involved, to make the changes that you thought were important at the time.
Yeah, and it's, I think it's one of those roles where, do you have impact? Not always, but you're privileged enough to be able to look into other ideas, suggestions, and drive our industry forward, because the last year we've almost been like the forgotten few. Hospitality has been hard hit. Most of us have involvement some way, shape or form, whether it be supplier or distributor, with large events, exhibitions, graduations, all of that sort of thing. But our industry didn't really get picked up. And that's where, the BPMA has really, Kerry has pushed on the door of so many government offices. We're really lucky that we've got some excellent board members that are able to represent each side of the industry, supplier and distributor, and have been very vocal with government office. Never too sure where it gets you, but we just keep going. And actually, we've had some great audiences recently with Ministry of Export, Department of Industry and Trade, with BAYS.
It's really noticeable. Yeah, no, it has. For us as a supplier, I mean, it's been so noticeable. I know the people have said it as well. Like you couldn't really have asked for much more of the BPMA in terms of like the leadership, the advice that's been given, the different seminars that have been given as well. So, and it has. I mean, we'll get on it now just very quickly. It has been obviously a tough time for everyone, and I just wanted to have a quick chat about the Brexit last year, and how you've sort of seen the industry, play out. And is there any bits of advice you give that you've seen as a person who's got a good overview of the industry? Is there anything you would advise people to do in a time of like what we've been through?
Yeah, I think, we all knew Brexit was coming. No one really knew what to expect. And then first couple of weeks seemed fine. And then we were all hit by a steam train, I think, because all of a sudden nothing was getting anywhere. Paperwork wasn't correct, couriers and all the rest of it. So we've all shared that pain, I think. Knowledge and understanding was key, but missing. So there wasn't really any go-to places of where do we get this advice. And I know I spent 1 week in particular speaking to so many colleagues, competitors, trying to work out what we do, just as a group of people. How have you got this one into this country? What are you doing? I think the implication's been huge. And for a lot of, I'm going to speak more for distributors, I think, they've lost a lot of business. Clients don't necessarily see that it's not your fault. They don't really understand. And the customs duties, the extra taxes.
I think there's an expectation for you to just know as well. Being from your customers to go, well, you're my supplier, so you should know. And I mean, that happens obviously, from the distributors to suppliers, but again, from your customers, it just trickles up. And I think everyone then looks at the BPMA like, right, okay, so you must know then. And it's like, again, even that's an expectation from our side.
Yeah, I think everyone was learning on the go, and it was proper learning on the go. There was lots of knowledge sharing. I mean, all credit has to go to Kerry and the team for pulling together the webinars, because you know, I was watching them, and even when I was the other side of the camera, I was listening, learning every week. You know, the raft of paperwork that comes out is just, you know, it's too much.
Poor Kerry and even you guys. I think the other problem is the fact that, and I've said this openly, and it's in a most polite way I can say it. When the first seminar went on, you're like, right, great, and then you go, and poor you, we come back then and go, oh, but just a few 19,000 more questions. Also, this, and it's like, okay, seminar number 2, because that's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? It's been absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and I think that coupled with not really understanding the necessity or urgency for commodity codes, the ORI numbers, countries of origin, all of those things for some of us, and I include myself in that, wasn't expecting to have to gather all that information so quickly. And the pressure we've put on suppliers, unfortunately, is huge, because we need that information now.
That's
so
it.
You know, and you know, it's not fair, but that's the way that we were. And I think more recently we've picked up an audience with HMRC, just because, you know, when they're referring me to 2.6.3, it's of no interest to me whatsoever. I just need it explained and understand what I need to do. And I think hopefully, you know, we will start to get a few more answers, a bit more involvement, and support everyone better.
Yeah, I think that whole thing you just said then about the information you can read, I think it needs to sometimes be crystal clear, because you can read 89 documents and still come out the side of it and go, yeah, that's great, that's beautiful, well written. What do I actually have to do though? What's my next? What action do I have to take? And that's the problem. People just want to know what do I have to do right now. And but it's hard. It's been tough. And obviously, you know, you've seen the challenges that obviously the last year has given, not just on the Brexit side, you've seen it on, you know, from COVID side of things as well. And you've seen obviously different companies doing different things, and some surviving better than others. Is there anything you've seen again on that side of things that you think would be, you know, any advice you would give on how people have conducted themselves through the last sort of trying 18 months, what we're on now?
Yeah, I mean, it's been difficult. Look, everyone has to do what is best for them. They have to do based on their financial situation, based on their own personal circumstances, based on their, you know, their own decisions in life as to what they want to make. And I don't think there's a rule book which tells you how you should have dealt with it. We were very fortunate at Allwag. You know, we used furlough to a minimum, so we kept a core of 12 staff. We rotated some of our team when we would, you know, early days of doing the rotations, but we had everyone back from September and have, you know, had them back since. And I think we're seeing the benefits of that now, because we actually invested time and money in a new website, new schemes, lots of changes. And we took the opportunity to look at sustainability, to look at all the things that are on the to-do list that perhaps, you know, we haven't had the time to do. We've used this time to reshape how we do things. We've gone paperless with the way that we do stuff. So we've made a lot of changes, which it sounds, you know, really easy, gone paperless, but that means a whole new system, because we all love a bit of paper.
Oh no, it's great. If you mentioned some of the order process, and when we first mentioned it, it's like whoa, no, but you know, it's definitely the way forward, but you have to give that time to allow the sort of change for people to accept it and whatnot.
And we've seen now, coming out of it, we're seeing great success, and again, we've had such a challenging 18 months, and now we're picking back up. That's almost a bigger shock as well, because we're having to readjust, you know, back up to being busy. It's like, whoa, what just happened?
It's certainly, I feel that it's certainly been interesting sort of like increase over even the last few weeks, I would say, but it's good. And I saw, by the way, you've done, you know, recruitment drives and things like that, so it's been really nice to see. And you get that sense when you're in BPMA, do you get the sense that the industry is hopefully on the, I know it's all a bit all over the place, but do you feel like that the industry has been on the mend?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that generally. You know, it's busy, buzzing. That's great. I mentioned it was unpredictable. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, it only takes a word or a nod from, you know, whoever to
uncertainty is the killer. I think uncertainty is definitely the killer.
Yeah, I don't want to tempt fate, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've had equally, I'm delighted that we've had a few growing our own baby Allwags, so we've got a few maternities that we're dealing
Right,
with.
okay, but that's, yeah, that'll be a worldwide thing, I think that, so yeah. But I was going to say, I know it is important because, you know what, I think I've not been, I wouldn't use the word unfair, but I think in my analysis of how people have done things, and, you know, we were laughing before we came on to the whole word pivoting. We were saying that, you know, whether you pivoted, I've said in the past that, like, I've gone, oh, well, if you took your business down to a flicker of a heartbeat, I'm not sure that's the right way forward. But I think that bit could be unfair because, as you said, it really does. It does depend on your circumstances and what maybe if you're in a position to do that and you didn't have many overheads, or even if you didn't, maybe that was just the right choice for you as a business at the time. But the one thing I do think is important is what you just said, is that if you didn't take that time to at least reevaluate and you know, when you didn't have the time because you were in a busy workplace, you didn't have the time to set, you know, you mentioned sustainability and maybe re-angle the business in that direction, or take time to look at your accounts or look at the way you operate. If you've not even done any of that, then that maybe really is where you're onto a bit of a potential lose, or a future lose, should I say. So I think that is key, isn't it? If you've been hit with a blow, at least look at what you can do with your current circumstances. You mentioned obviously about you know, Allwag and sustainability, you know, and how you've sort of changed direction on that. I just wanted to touch on the whole sustainability thing and sort of where you see the industry going. Because if I'm right in sort of what my sort of interpretation, things are certainly not going backwards now. I think some people thought that would happen with what happened with COVID, but I personally feel that it's very, you know, not the case. And do you think that will increase now? It continue to increase, should I say?
Yeah, I think so. My take on it, I've got two daughters, and they've educated me. So their way of thinking is very different, you know, in some instances to mine. They're our future buyers, what's important to them, their perception, and they're pretty cute. You know, they see it for what it is, not some of the greenwashing that you see goes on. They see straight through that. So I think we're in a period of change. We're in a period of evolvement. You know, we all know we've got products that perhaps could be slightly more environmentally friendly, or perhaps shouldn't be sold at all. And equally, it's down to the client as to what they want to spend their money on. So at the moment, I think we're juggling a lot of, you know, if a client's got a need and a desire, we want to fulfill that. And some are very environmentally conscious, others haven't given it a thought. So we're in this transition period, and I think for us, we've been grading products. We've been doing a lot of work in the background over the past 6 to 9 months that's basically allowing us to make conscious decisions. We've equally got something that we're rolling out which will allow clients to make more conscious decisions. And it doesn't mean to say they always choose the environmentally friendly merchandise, but they're armed with the information they need to make the right decision for them.
You provided the option, haven't you? That's the key.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think, you know, and equally, it's not just about the product. It's whether you've got, you know, solar power, whether or not you're doing as much as you can, even in, you know, our little old office in Hatfield, Peveril, warehouse in Witton, whatever. We've got things that we could be doing better, and that's what we're working on. And for us, we're looking at social impact as well, so that comes under some of the other things that we do in terms of give back, charity work, and whatever else. So I think, yeah, the product choice for us is a huge focus, and we have seen a massive increase in awareness and change of buying patterns from clients, and I think it is the way forward. You know, I think we all need to sharpen our pencils in many ways to understand what actually the terminology is, what it means, what the impact is. Back to the BPMA, in terms of what we've been trying to do, it's a huge beast. Tackle this. I mean, you know, we've come at it from several angles, and it's massive because it is going to make a dent in our industry in many different ways. But all for the right reason. And you know, you take aside what we do, it is the right thing to be doing. We've all seen in the past year, you know, how much fresher the air feels with less traffic on the roads. You know, but equally we're seeing the devastation of things like disposable masks, and we've all been guilty of being a part of that. So I think it's changing our thinking, because certainly my children it's not about changing their thinking, it's the way they think already.
Yeah, that's it. And it's looking at what their thoughts are now and thinking, right, well, this, as you say, they're the future buyers, and we need to make sure we've got ourselves stocked and ready to go for them.
And it is, you know, it's the simple rules of longevity, what we're doing with it at end of life. And it is all about freedom of information almost, is giving people that choice. But yeah, it's a beast. It's a big beast.
It is. It is indeed. It is. On the obviously, we're talking about sustainability there, and that's the future of how that's going. Is there any other, like, obviously again in your position as being chair of BPMA, is there anything you've seen from your overview that you think people need to be on board for the industry to head in this direction? Is there any other trends or anything you think might, obvious trends, should I say?
Yeah, I mean, I think you dared use the word pivot your business. I think we've changed, who would have known if I'd have said a year ago or 18 months ago, we're going to be doing so many more collation jobs, delivering to homes, gift sets.
Yeah.
That's been a massive change overnight. And the challenges that's come with that is, it might have been something we did on the rare occasion before, whereas now it's a frequent request. Yeah. And again, I don't think clients necessarily understand the implications of what you have to do, because it takes as long to put it on especially if it's going out to Europe, it takes as long to put it on DHL, DPD, whatever it might be, as it does to pack it up and make it look pretty. So
this is it, and the quoting stage and everything. I think you have to. When we first started, I was actually laughing at it. We were having a conversation about yesterday, and he said, do you feel like it's working for that? I was like, yeah, no, just no two ways about it. It's definitely working for us as a company, and it's definitely profitable. But it's the little things that we're like, so I was saying to quote, well, it takes us about half an hour, but it used to take us about an hour and a half. So, and it's silly because, as we know, half an hour is still way too long for a quote. And it's like, all right, well, we're getting better. And it's all the things that, like, hopefully those little things will become 10 minutes or, and we will get there. But as you say, there is so many integral parts and different, and people don't, again, especially you guys, but your customers will have no care that they have to go out to different printers, all these different items, and they have to be fulfilled in different ways, and labels coming from one place and whatever else. So it's as you say, it's a bit of a beast. But what I've personally found, I'm very simplistic with the way I think about the fulfillment and the gifting side of things. Is people sometimes think, oh, it's probably just COVID and this whole thing, individual addresses and whatever, it's going to stop. But I'm like, well, have you ever stopped giving gifts for, I don't know, Father's Day? Or have people ever stopped thanking their staff? Or so I personally, again, I know that's a very black and white simplistic view, but I think no, it will continue. And we've started doing a lot of new starters, getting them a whole little set saying welcome to the company, branded bottle, notebook, and whatever else. And it's why would we go backwards on that when we've done it for it's been really nice. It's gone down really well with people who've started. So I can only see.
It is a lovely thing to do. I think the downside is it's not always as profitable, because if they had £15 a head, they forget that, or £30 a head, they forget that there's carriage in there, there's delivery in there, and they seem somewhat surprised that it's as expensive as it can be with a heavy item or whatever else, and there's no margins to be made on that type of thing, because it's has to be fairly transparent. And I think that's the only downside to it. Is
100%. I sort of feel like you said, I hope the gifting side continues to go, but maybe let's get it down to one address rather than 3,000.
Yes, please.
Right. Okay. So obviously we've touched on all the things you do. There was one thing as well I mentioned. Obviously, earlier you said you'd only been the BPMA chair for board member for, that was like 7 years. But I also noticed as well there was CIM. You were working in CIM, the marketing role as well. But that from what I've seen, that also coincided with working at Allwag. Is that right, or have I got my dates wrong there?
Yeah, no. So I was again a voluntary regional board director for the East of England region for the Chartered Institute of Marketing. They asked me to join. I'd done some projects for them before, and I did a 2-year project with them to work with students. I quite like the training and development side. We have a lot of that at Allwag, and trying to share knowledge. And so for me, apprenticeships and training and developing staff, we've actually just won or just been awarded Investors in People Platinum. So we're one of
amazing.
70 companies.
Congratulations.
But yeah, so for me, my role with the CIM was to bring together employers and students in their third year, graduates potentially, that were studying marketing, and make it come alive for them. Because one of the challenges I have, and I've got my own 21-year-old daughter that's just graduating, was that textbooks great, but they need the actual practice. So my role with the CIM, and again, it was just two evenings a month pretty much, but it was just coordinating and putting on events to bring together employers and students. Employers were sharing and creating workshops, and students actually were linking up for future placements or internships. Very successful, and I was on a team that have now rolled that out up and down the UK.
Right. Okay. Wow. So again, I think that's just another example of how, like, I wouldn't say you're not content in just running, one of the most well-known and like successful companies in the industry, but it is again, like I say, doing the things like that and then going, just always wanting to sort of do more or help other people as well and invest in other people. Again, it shows it shows obviously your desire to sort of be better in yourself and for the people around you, but also that you are, I think I'm right in saying this, very good at multitasking and juggling as well. So is there any advice that you got? Me personally, and I mentioned it earlier, like I very often I'm just focused on the one task that I'm doing, whereas I don't know if it's just because I'm a bloke or not, I'm not too sure, but but is there any advice you give to people to say, look, the only way you're going to manage all these things is X?
Well, there's not always enough time in the day, I'll be honest. I'm really lucky. I've got great husband, great family, fabulous team Allwag that are able to support, get involved. So you have to be committed, dedicated, and enjoy what you do. And I really, really do. I'm not great at, I can have 50 ideas, and I think anyone that works with me will know that I don't always finish them all. So I like shiny things, and I'm quite often attracted to them. And so I'm off on a different tangent. And maybe there are times when, I drop the ball, because none of us are perfect. But no, I think having the right people around you, knowing what to delegate, knowing who to get involved, developing others means you can then develop yourself. And I think with my team, Kira's worked for me for 14 years, and she's fabulous at picking up the pieces behind me. I'll have the idea and she'll make it happen. Once you've got those partnerships in place, whether it be within your business, within your home life, I think you can do more. And it's all about trying to make the best of what your skills are. There's no point trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And I've long since realised that you play to people's strengths, train and encourage them to do better, but do what they do best, and that's where everyone can shine. So all of these things that I do, some of them I consider to be a hobby. I just like, I enjoy doing them. I don't play golf, don't do,
that's your thing.
That's what I enjoy. So
do you know what, in terms of like getting the advice from what you've said, as far as I can sort of take from that, I think it is, and again, it goes back to pretty much every role you've mentioned, really, it is investing in the people around you and support them to ultimately help you to get where you're heading as well. So
and let them make mistakes. We'll make them. That's how we learn. And I think for me, it's a case of support them when they make the mistakes, celebrate success. We do like celebrating, doesn't matter what, but we like celebrating success, because I think that's what we all need. We all need that little smile on our face and enjoy what we do. You're a long time at work, so for me, it's make it pleasurable.
Not true, and I think that in terms of giving people the advice, I think that's something that we've actually just been doing culture workshops here at Altex, and one of the things we were actually looking on is just leadership or team development. And one of the things they really touched on was the fact that this whole give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day, or give a man a fishing rod. But we were saying, you give a working example. He said, right, so someone comes to you, one of the members of staff who've just started, and says, we'll do it in a print shop environment, for example. It comes over his piece of paper to the manager. I need to print this job, but should I print it in red or blue? And it's like, he says, print it in red, and then goes back to his dad. And the next day, I'm doing this print job. Should I print this in blue? And it's like, right, rather than just keep saying blue, red, you'll just keep coming back day after day. But if you actually say, you know, what do you think? And they'll say, oh, red. And why do you think that? Well, it says it at the top of the paper on it. Yeah, so that's fine. And already then it's silly little things like that. But the idea is that, you know, if you just keep enabling all the time, you're actually not going to get anywhere. You'll not get the support you need because you've basically been a bottleneck. And I think that is, again, what I think from what you just said there, I think you've gave people the sort of fishing rods to do what they need to do as well. So yeah, it's good. I just wanted to ask you, Angela, we obviously working at Allwag, you know, and director company for over, you know, 22 years. You've obviously seen people come on board, and unfortunately, I'm sure you've seen over the years maybe some people have really thrived and some people haven't made it. I wanted to ask you, and it's something I ask all guests, is there anything you would say that if you're going to get on board with Allwag, you really need to be X, or you need to have this type of, is there any, well, non-negotiables as I've called them in this podcast, is there anything you would say on that?
I probably need a sense of humour.
Yeah, this is common
trend. Need to work with me.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I think we take people for their potential. We take people for what we think they can do, their attributes. So we're still a family-run business. You know, we still enjoy the basics. So for me, I think they just have to be committed. I think they have to be prepared to enjoy what they do, and you know, there's not a lot of airs and graces with who we are and what we do. I'm mucking, as does Alan. You know, he runs the warehouse. So I think, yeah, we just look for kind of honest, genuine people, and so therefore, one thing I can't abide is if someone, you know, has a bit of trouble with the truth. They won't last long with me. Or with any of the team, to be fair, because I think we're all of the same mind, and we've got some great people. Sarah's worked for us, Lauren, I think 9 years, and you know, we've got some really good people, proper dedicated, love what they do, and it is a case of work hard, you know, play hard as well. The last year, the biggest disappointment for me is that we've not been able to treat our team, take them out, do some of the social events. You know, we go to Edinburgh at Christmas, all of those things we haven't been able to do, and that makes it really difficult because it feels like a one-way street. So hopefully, you know, those that have joined us more recently in our existing team will be able to pick that back up again fairly soon. But I think the non-negotiable for me is you know, sense of fun, sense of humour, and you know, don't have any problems with telling the truth.
Yeah, no, I think that it sounds silly, like it sounds such a silly, simple thing, just don't lie. But it is so many people who think, I'll just go down that route, it'll and then if I just say that happened, but honestly, you can get past something, a mistake or whatever, so much quicker and better, and people will think better of you for it if you just tell the truth, and just you can move on then to the, you know, next thing and learn from it as well. It's like, you know,
I think it just shows respect. I think, and that's exactly. And that's the only thing that I ask the team, you know, for suppliers, clients, one another, just show respect. You don't have to you don't have to like everyone all the time, but if you're respectful for one another, then you know you always treat someone how you want to be treated anyway. But don't drop your guard on that, and we'll all get along fine.
Yeah, good. No, like it. Well, to be honest, I've always seen that when we speak to you on the phone and all the team, everything, the whole industry knows Allwag's like a nice little like family, or it seems that way anyway. So it's nice. It's sort of like that shines through. So you've hats off to you there. I was going to ask you as well. I mean, you probably touched on it just from saying the things you just said there, but obviously Angela's starting out in not just this industry, starting out in business in general. You've seen things and learned things along the way. Is there any key bits of advice that you would give to anyone starting off? I will say actually in this industry, is there anything you would think that, you know, if you want to be successful, you should really try and be?
From a personal point of view, and probably more from a business owner's point of view, go with your gut. So I would say, you know, do what you think's right. There's been times when over the years, you know, I may have made poor choices. Different people may have come along and I thought, oh, you know, they're perfect for this, this and this, but may have had a reservation. I think go with your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't.
Yeah,
you know, I think that's the thing is we all know ourselves, and we do quite a lot with, you know, Colour Energy's insights, discoveries, just understanding self. And so for me, once you've understand what your strengths are, your areas for improvement, you can trust, you know what you want. And if you can't go with your gut, then go with someone that you know is experienced or qualified to give you advice or to support you, because I think none of us are bigger or better than anyone else. And even when you've been running a business for 20 years, getting a mentor, getting a coach, that type of thing is really good for personal development. So I would say, go where you go. If you don't feel qualified to make the right decision, then lean on those that have got that experience. And, you should always ask for advice, because I think if you really are uncertain, Google does a lot of things, but it doesn't tell you how to make decisions. So I think, having those relationships in our industry, we're so lucky. Nobody left school thinking, well, I'll say nobody, perhaps some did, but there aren't many that left school and said, I'm going to be in the promotional merchandise industry. So we've all fallen.
Angela, I was asked when I was in reception, said, what do you want to do? You know, they said selling travel mugs, and that was me. I just knew. No, you are right on that. Yeah, I certainly didn't.
Yeah. And I just think, it's such a lovely industry. We've got some great people, great characters, lots of support, and lots of brilliant, relationships that have really helped us when we've all struggled, or, this last year's seen that as well. And I think that's so precious. So we take it for granted a lot of the time. And the only time we tend to call on that is when things go wrong. So, again, a little thank you here and there doesn't hurt. And I think it's often greatly appreciated. It works always. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, but it's all that what you just said there. I think there is, about you mentioned words like, I've heard it in other episodes as well, where it's like about alignment and go with your gut. And I've heard that now. Obviously, this is episode 6, and literally, it's so funny that those pieces of advice just keep coming back and back. And it is, it's obviously that is the case. And Richard Pettinger, he said one great one last time. He said, look, if people are telling you to do this and this, and they're pushing, oh, well, you really do, and you want to, this deal's going to go, well, maybe actually sometimes the best bit of advice is actually, no, I'm not actually going to do anything. I'm going to take time to think. And it's just funny that I keep hearing this whole thing about just going, and the niggles that are back of your mind, they're probably there for a reason.
And walking away in our industry, where most of us, most of the directors are probably sales orientated, walking away in the past might have been the hardest thing to do. I think the last year probably has taught us that, okay, things can change rapidly. Who would have known? We did fall off a cliff over about a period of a week in terms of sales. And I would say, don't be afraid to walk away and make a decision that, at the end of the day, all right, there might be a short-term loss, but there's always a long-term gain. So I think walking away now is something a few more of us are perhaps a bit braver to be able to do. And that comes with luxury of growing a business as well, and having that confidence. But sometimes making those decisions when you're a smaller business, you're like, oh no, I need every order, every sale, and I've got to bend over, backwards and whatever else. Whereas sometimes it's actually, on this occasion, I don't think we're the right person for you or the right company for you. And actually, that's quite an achievement in itself.
No, it is. I mean, that's absolutely great advice, because honestly, they can be just simple decisions that you've walked away from, or they can be things that could actually really have a detriment to your company as well. If you took on the wrong thing and, your company can't handle it, and you knew that sort of the back of your mind when you took it on, then it could cause you the things that you said in the past in your business, where you said too much stress, or it can literally, cash flow might not be right, and you're getting too pushed from the person who's giving you the job. So it's very very good advice. I was going to ask you, just in regards to this, is a bit of advice for myself, to be honest. I get on, people wouldn't think it, but I come on to things like this, and I've all manner of anxiety and things like that. But I've heard you publicly speaking at different things, and I know you've done like the the seminars on things like this, but a little bit of advice for anyone who gets anxiety from doing any version of public speaking in any way. Have you got any advice for that to help people manage those nerves?
Anxiety is good. So I think if you can channel that, that's great. I mean, obviously not to the point it makes you ill. That's not so good. But I think, the time when I don't feel that little bit of anxiety is probably the day that I'd stop doing it, because it's the adrenaline stroke anxiety stroke, what's going to happen. I mentioned when I was in recruitment, and actually it came up this morning with the team. We have a team challenge on a Friday morning, and there's normally a quiz or a treasure hunt or whatever. And it came up this morning, but many years ago when I was in recruitment, I presented to on stage with over 1,000 people.
Really?
That's less frightening than probably doing something like this.
Really, yeah, yeah. That's
Because
what's it's strange, isn't it? Sometimes, yeah, how you can feel a certain way in a certain thing, but yeah,
because I think they're everybody's faceless, because you can't, you're looking out into an audience, and
yeah,
um, you can't really. It's not one person in particular. And I've done some work on stage with some quite big personalities, and I'm the follow-up tact or the introducer. So, but
yeah,
I still get nervous. I still get anxious. I still bumble and whatever else. I think it's be yourself. I think.
yeah,
You are, whether you've got a camera in front of you, a screen in front of you, or a whole audience of people, they're there to see you, they're there to listen to you, or they're there for they didn't want to do either and they're just there. But be yourself, because I think that's so important. And you channel your energies into, as long as you've done your preparation, as long as you've thought through what you're going to do, and maybe some kind of memory joggers just to help you out. I know that one of the years I presented on stage for a couple of years ago, so it might have been the last Merchandise World Awards, and I went up on stage, and as I went up, I cracked the back of my tooth.
as you were actually going,
as I stepped on the stage, and I must have bit hard because I was anxious, so I bit hard, back of my tooth shattered into pieces. So I did the first thanks for coming. I think it was the point at which I said we'd seen 100 people at Merchandise World, not 1,000. I had a mouthful of tooth. And I wasn't sure what to do with it. So it was a case of, do I swallow it? I don't really want to swallow it.
this is
I
such
get the water?
yeah.
The water's over there. So I had that awful feeling of, oh my God. And I had an absolute blank with, I could just see all these faces. I couldn't remember a thing that I was going to say. I couldn't even look at my paper, and I just thought, I've got a mouthful of tooth. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I did bumble through it, I'm sure.
But you know what's funny on that, and this is something I've found in this job, that you will have been so unbelievably conscious of that at that one moment, and then you would have said, even you said the 100 thing, or I suppose maybe there's a few people gone like, I'm not sure, but you'll have been far more conscious than anybody else, and that, I think that's good advice in itself. The idea that, like, I've done it before, and I think maybe I knew I was burning a candle at both ends, and I've done it. I was doing a presentation to one of the big companies in our industry, and I'm not gonna lie, I'll be honest, Angela, looking back, I think I was having a slight panic attack. But it wasn't. But in my mind, I was having like mini pauses. So I was going, so we've also got even that little bit then, that felt like 10 seconds, but it wasn't. It was probably, and they didn't notice, but I knew internally that it was happening. But I think that's one key thing to know, that is, don't think that everyone else feels the same way that you do. Or, we'll think the same way that you do. I think that's key as well.
Yeah, and I think no one knew what I was going to say. It was only me. No one knew what so it's all in your head. And I think if you just be yourself, channel your anxiety in the right way, it's good to have that little bit of anxiousness.
People say that, even the big stars, all the the pop band, or singers and everything, they always say, if I didn't have nerves before going out on stage or wherever, as you said, I'll stop doing it, because it doesn't make sense anymore. I'm not getting the excitement and the thrill of doing what I'm doing as well. So
yeah, no, and it's all, everything will be fine in the end. So fortunately, there was, on that instance, there was some lovely people around. All right, they might have corrected me with my 100, not 1,000, but hey. But it's I think it's all an experience, and you get better at it every time, or you worry slightly less about it every time. But as long as you're prepared, that's the thing for me, is as long as you've done a run through, or you're prepared, and you know what, you've thought about it. Things happen that are unexpected, but that's what makes it fun.
No, definitely. Neil, my manager, literally said that he said he gets, the same as you said, no matter what position he is in the company, he's a director and whatever. And he said, do you think I don't get nerves going into big meetings? He said, but the one way I combat it, so that you wouldn't know, is that preparation is, as you said, preparation is key. And I'll be honest, that's where I sometimes, at times, have maybe not been as prepared as I could be. At times, every time. No, at times I did need to definitely be a bit more prepared. And I knew, as I've started, I thought, why didn't I just get that? It would have took like half an hour to be better prepared for, And I think that is massively important information. So no, thank you for that. That's really, really good to bits of advice again. Last thing I was going to ask you, Andrew, that's all right. I just want to, again, I always say this in the podcast, this is a very hard-hitting question. I just wanted to ask you, do you have any particular desert island film that you would take away with you? You only have one.
Could I take Netflix?
Yeah, there you go, sorted. Angela would take Netflix too. Yeah. All right. To be fair, someone else has snuck in too. So if you've got if there's a few up there, you're thinking, is there any key ones that stand out? As soon as you say it, is there any jump out there?
Well, I honestly didn't know what Netflix was until last year. So
obviously, I told you, you're too busy, Angela.
I've gone through the whole of Money Heist, Prison Break. I love it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan watcher, film watcher. I'll only watch it the once because I know what's going to happen, and I can never watch it again. My daughters watch films time and time again. So it would probably be something along the lines of a action Mission Impossible. If I could take the series of Hawaii Five-0, I'd be a happy lady.
So there we go. Well, to be fair, you can take the new one, right? Okay, right, yeah, that's interesting. Right, Angela, it's been honestly, firstly, absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate your time and all the bits of advice you gave. It's lovely to hear a bit of background on your story. You've clearly been, I think, from a very young age, just dedicated and to always constantly trying to do better at whatever line of work you've been in. And it's lovely to hear your journey. And I hope for anyone listening, I hope they can take the bits of advice that you've said, and about just trying to be the best of what you can, and the alignment and everything else. It's really nice to hear. And I know, obviously, like I say, you show well respect in the industry. So I think hopefully people really can take advice from you and think that's something I would like to take on board. So thank you again, basically, for your time.
That's all right. Thank you. It's been lovely to be given the opportunity to chat. Sorry if I bored anyone silly that might be listening, but
no, I'm sure you won't.
I do love a chat, so that's fine. But no, I mean, thank you. And I think what you're doing here is great. It's great to get to know people a little bit better, and hopefully I'm fortunate enough that I'll be passing over the reins in November of chair, but I'll still be on the board, and still we go on to be president for a couple of years. So I'm always around if anyone wants to chat or help, advice, whatever. By all means, give us a call. But this has been great, Chris, and I think you're doing a sterling job. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, no, much appreciated. Yeah, as I say, with a bit more prep, a bit more professional.
You'll be fine.
Right, okay, Angela, thank you again. And I will just on that note say goodbye, and thank you everyone for listening. This has been episode 6 of the Industry Insight podcast, and I will catch you. I'm not sure if there'll be another one, to be honest, Andrew, for a while at least. This is probably the end of season 1, I would say. So thank you for being the last amazing guest. And I will see everyone later. Thank you again.
Take care. Thanks, Chris.